Alright guys, so apparently I have forgotten to make an immediate actions video, so we're going to talk about immediate actions when you do a stoppage. So what's a stoppage? It's a disruption within the cycle of operations of the weapon system. It's basically the life cycle to keep this thing shooting. So if you are shooting and then the gun goes click, well, you're going to follow a simple 3-step process, and honestly this will take care of 90% of all the stoppages you ever deal with, depending upon the kind of gun you have and how old it is and how often you shoot. So anyways, if I'm shooting and then the gun goes click, I'm going to take my finger out, I'm going to turn it outwards, tap that magazine to make sure the magazine's fully seated. If you have a very small gun, you're going to need to flare your fingers out in order to get a solid tap on that magazine. Now notice I'm just simply tapping it, making sure it's fully seated. I'm turning it back inward. I'm pinching with my thumb on top. That slides where it's serrated so I can get a good grip on it. I am racking, and then I'm going to attempt to re-engage. The reason we do this is I'm going to tap to make sure that magazine's fully seated. So if I had a failure to feed, like failure to feed the magazine into the gun, failure to feed around into the chamber, then that will solve that issue. I'm going to rack, because I'll obviously need to rechamber around, and then I'm going to attempt to re-engage, bang, which means shoot. So you're solving the likely probabilities for the stoppage by doing that 3-step process. Finger out always, tap, rack, and then bang. That is for a failure to feed, when we forget to seat a magazine all the way in, and you'll see this a lot with concealed carry guns because people's hands hang off the bottom, they pinch their skin, or when you're wearing gloves in the wintertime, and so that happens quite often. Again, you will just simply turn the gun, tap it, rack it, and then re-engage. That is for a type 1 stoppage, failure to feed. Now, the next type of stoppage, something we call a stovepipe. That is when you're shooting, all of a sudden you get a mushy trigger, or the gun, no mushy trigger. And then you have this sticking out the top of your gun. Obviously it would be an empty shell casing and not an entire round. So as I'm shooting, these are immediate action drills, meaning that as soon as the gun doesn't do what I want it to do, I'm just going through the motions. Tap, rack, and then bang. So you can see there, it cleared the obstruction. That's called a failure to eject. Extraction is pulling the round out of the chamber. Ejection is kicking it out of the gun. And so anytime you have a failure to eject, that disruption within the cycle of operations results in a stovepipe, which is known as a type 2 stoppage. And so by tapping, racking, and then banging or attempting to re-engage, you will resolve that issue once again. For my lefties, be careful, because when you guys go to tap and then rack, a lot of the times people want to come over the top just because they're losing fine motor skills, or they don't have as strong of hands, or they haven't developed that methodology yet. Be careful, because you're covering the ejection port. And so if you cover the ejection port, all you're doing is creating another stoppage. So you really want to get good at grabbing the backside of that slide, so that way you're not encumbering the ejection process. Let me know your questions, guys, but that's how you deal with type 1 and type 2 stoppages, otherwise known as immediate action drills.